Local manufacturers want the government to protect them from countries like China. They say survival is difficult in the global competitive environment. True Value Supermarket takes a stand on increasing prices from suppliers. The CEO says he will not be purchasing items from suppliers who have increased their prices without a valid reason. In the midst of a review of all state boards, the chairman of CPEP says his board has done its best over the last 2 years and has taken CPEP to a different level. You're watching Market to Market, the only prime-time business program in the country. Depending on where in the world you operate, the manufacturing sector is different. The big global players compete on technology and innovation. The smaller ones operating in low-wage economies compete on cost. Here at home, one manufacturer says the industry has become very difficult to compete in, with everyone struggling to survive. Diana Candy has a relatively small factory in Arima and produces 6 million pieces of candy on a weekly basis. Managing Director Ronald Grosberg explains some of the challenges he faces as a manufacturer. He was firm, though, about not allowing our cameras inside the factory.
We are manufacturing from base raw material, and it's basically all imported. At one time, sugar was made here. Now we're importing sugar. We buy in the world market. And we're taking that base material and making a finished product. Now, let me just give you a little perspective on what manufacturing is. We make over 6 million pieces of candy every week. And every one of those pieces are consumed by a man or woman or a child individually, one at a time. And each one has got to meet the standards, ones of safety and two of quality. And it's got to compete and compare with the best. Because on our market, we have stuff coming in from all over the world. South America, the Middle East, Far East, wherever. So we are trying to create a product of the highest standard from base raw material and compete with the rest of the world and be competitive. That's a big story.
How do you manage that when it's a local brand, but you have all these global candy brands? I mean, how do you compete against that on the supermarket shelves, or even when you export?
That's the whole picture. And you're quite right. We are competing with everybody. And of course, especially now, stuff coming in from China and from India. And you have a host of people who are going to China, buying bulk stuff, coming in, simply putting it in a pack, stapling a header board, putting it next to our product. And we have to compete with that manufacturer in China. How you do it? Efficiency. Our company employs, and by no means are we a large company by any standards. We employ about 130 people, and they are extremely efficient. Now, just to give you a little idea, this is my 50th year of manufacturing. It's what I know. My basic training was with Nestle, and I worked in several countries of the world. And I can assure you, the people working in this plant here are as good as you will find anywhere, because they work hard, extremely long hours, and they have to be very efficient. That's the only way we can survive.
Grosberg says labor is a major issue as it's difficult to get people to work.
I had asked the ministers whether we couldn't even get work permits. Now, I'll tell you what saves us are those who've been here a while, and mostly women. You wouldn't believe it, but if you went through the plant, in fact, in our company, majority are women. They're committed. They're the ones willing to come here and stay and make it happen. Men, extremely tough. Now, that's not only my experience. But getting labor, you will find on the gates of this factory that we're constantly looking for people. We can employ another 15 people. Can't get them. We interview. There are men that walk in here and after 3 hours say, can't handle it. Right? And the women are the ones who stick. So getting labor is extremely difficult. I know the government want to work CPEP people into manufacturing. I'm not so sure if that's going to work or that's going to happen.
Why?
Well, for one, the mindset of those who are into CPEP are not going to fit into this. Now, I'm maybe prejudging, but that's my take.
You think because they just accustomed to working a couple hours and calling
That's
it a
one,
day?
absolutely. That's a case in point. And then the work there, I can tell you, hey, it's tough. I'm telling you that this is extremely tough. The productivity has to be extremely high. If we didn't have a higher level of efficiency, we won't survive. So the key in our business is efficiency and how we buy raw material, how we control our costs. That's the plight of all manufacturers. Now, manufacturing in Trinidad is a dying breed. I'm in it because that's what I know, and I've been in it so long. Anyone coming into this business will say, why? Why don't you go elsewhere and buy the finished product to your specification and come here, fill it, and sell it? I haven't gone that way because, as I say, this is what I know, because we're successful at it.
What's your biggest items right now?
Well, of course, Power Mint is our big seller, but we have a host of others. And there are a lot of products that aren't well known, like we make a fantastic guava. Anyone who tries it. We make a product called Stroops Mint, which is a tree mint. The name, okay, might have its own connotation, but it's a good product.
He strongly believes that not much attention is paid to the manufacturing sector. He says the government needs to protect the industry, especially from countries like China.
We are going to insist that China plays by the same rules as everybody else. And I know Americans had seen jobs being shipped overseas, businesses and workers not getting a level playing field when it came to trade. And that's the reason why I set up a trade task force to go after cheaters when it came to international trade. That's the reason why we have brought more cases against China for violating trade rules.
The government, we need their commitment also. And to be very frank, we need some level of protection. I cannot compete with a factory in China where there are 1.3 billion people. I can't continue to do that. So I'm not saying that you're stopping imported stuff or we're trying to affect them. And this issue now of the zero rating, if they can apply that to local manufacturing, that's sufficient. That's good incentives. So I'm looking for encouragement on that basis. Now I know I'm not representing TTMA here. I can speak very freely. That there's always talk about the port and the crime, and of course those are issues we all deal with. That's not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is trying to manufacture products and make it marketable of the highest standard and yet be competitive.
Christmas is just around the corner. It's a time where kids love to get candies for Christmas. Are you expecting a bumper season for your company?
I'm expecting a good season. You know, we are generally showing up in sales, you know, and this year is no exception. But there's one little point I want to make is that as a manufacturer, your home base is your core. Now, about 20 to 25% of our product is exported, and that's hard work. And of course, our biggest motive is to go into the America. In fact, we just have a shipment just reached America. In fact, today, it's being offloaded there. But and it's being accepted. But then the exports to America are pretty going to West Indian communities and so on. Cutting across that line is a big task. We're getting there, but it takes time. Our home base is what's important. Christmas is always a peak time. And in Trinidad, not so everywhere else. In America, chocolates are more so. But when it comes to candy, it's a big time for us.
Diana Candy's major export market is the Caribbean.
I would say in volume probably more to Guyana. And they're really buying about 3 products there. And of course in Barbados, likewise, they are more up-pricey. So we tend to do quite well there. St. Lucia, we do very well. You know, Jamaica, that's tough. I mean, now again trying to make some inroads there. And we had Belize, had problems getting payment from Belize. And then of course America. We do have a fair amount going out there.
Grossberg says he wants to tap into the North American market, but admits it's not so easy to gain market share. Is your pricing strategy competitive?
It has to be. Now, that's a big barrier to the export market. Exporting to the Caribbean, believe it or not, you have to be highly competitive. Going to North America, in many cases, if I took raw sugar, put it in a bag, and sold that to America without processing, I might have to sell it at a below cost. Is that competitive? Meeting that price market is huge. You've got a niche market. The first thing someone asks you at any of these exhibitions, what's the price per pound or price per kilogram? That's all. They're not even asking you, what's this product all about? How good it is? What's your price? And you tell them, and they go down to the next person. And inevitably, they're going to find suppliers from Brazil, Argentina, huge manufacturers. And once you're not within that category, you don't hear too much from them.
He says that while the economy is still facing a slowdown, a candy business does well in this economic climate.
When the economy is a bit struggling, our products tend to spike a bit. Reason is people opt for the lower price. But when in a very vibrant market, and a lot of money around, people are looking for the fancy stuff and all the top market chocolates. But you see that. But over the last 4 or 5 years, things have been much more consistent. And we've earned our place with our products.
Are you investing right now?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, we are always investing. And
How much do you plan to invest over the next year?
well, if I put it in dollars and cents, you're probably talking about $3 million in TT dollars. Now that doesn't sound a lot, but we have a lot of plant and we have capacity. And we even have lines that are now, I'm not going to disclose what they are, or not, that are not effective. So that doesn't include what we already have built-in plant that we can start to use, you know. But we have one of the biggest constraints in expanding is one, getting key people.
And I guess I liked that. And when I fell hard, you took a step back.
When we come back,
Well, at first the perception that was CPEP when I came in as chairperson, it was very, very difficult because it's all about gangs, shooting, killings, and as the minister said, you know, they're always in jail and in some crime. But getting into the organization and really understanding the organization, the culture, which I think is very important for any chairman to do, to understand the culture of the organization and sit and get feedback from what is happening within the organization.
Now blew me to places I've never been. Till you put me down, oh, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. So shame on me now, blew me to places I've never been.
Chairman of CPEP Adish Dinarani is confident that when his board comes under review, it will get a passing grade. He says he has been lucky to get the right mix of board members. You've seen all the issues affecting other state boards where they basically did not have the right mix. There was issues in terms of making decisions. There was no chemistry at the board level. Does the CPEP board have that kind of problem?
Well, as chairman, I have an open door policy where I sit with each board member and I will speak with them on a one-on-one basis, and then I will speak with them as a board. And we will trash out our differences, you know, whether it be before a meeting or regarding an issue. And that is how we need to work as a team, and then it's a democracy, so each person has a right to vote and an opinion. So all being considered, then we all decide on one and we all support it. We never have a situation where four and 5 against. It's 9 members I have.
But running a state board is not one of the easiest jobs in the world. So what were some of the challenges Dinarani has been faced with over the past 2 years?
Well, at first the perception that was CPEP when I came in as chairperson, it was very, very difficult because it's all about gangs, shooting, killings, and as the minister said, you know, they're always in jail and in some crime. But getting into the organization and really understanding the organization, the culture, which I think is very important for any chairman to do, to understand the culture of the organization and sit and get feedback from what is happening within the organization and then deal with it from that level. Consultation with the different management. What we try to do is we try to get best fit for the job. When we got here, we didn't have a proper management structure. There was no human resource manager. There was no qualified persons in managerial positions. So first things we did, understand the culture, then we advertised through the media, the newspaper, and we interviewed, and we have the best qualified people for the job.
When there are issues at the board level, how do you see this affecting the company in terms of being more efficient or productive?
Well, the thing is that everybody is on the same page, and we lay out the plan to the members of staff, we communicate, and that's my main focus here, communication. I talk to my board members, we say this is the direction we are going. We have a well-qualified senior management team, so we sit with finance, we sit with operations, and we would like to do something. We will ask the finance person, could it be done? And he's very efficient, and he would turn around and say, okay, it can be done, give them time to figure it out. So it's all about communication and teamwork, getting the necessary people, the technocrats involved to let us know what direction we can go in. We work within a budget framework. Before, we had a lot of excessive spending when we entered the board level. When we entered the board, being a board, there was not proper recording in the finance department. So we had to do a lot of corrective work to get the finances correct. And now that we have done that, we are on smooth sailing. We are quite confident as a company. The company is on a strong footing. As you can see, because of the demand of CPEP, people want more and more of CPEP, but the finances are the way it is. So we have to work with what we have.
Now, all state companies are different. They all have in different sectors. Their objectives are totally different. But at the end of the day, a lot of state companies are very inefficient. Do you think there's that competitiveness within the board level, with one state board saying, way more efficient than that state company? Do you think, and if there is that competitiveness, it might drive other state boards to be just as good?
Well, it's different strokes for different folks. I mean, all boards are totally different. All boards have different headaches, as you want to call it. And I guess it's just a matter of management at that level and knowing what you have and what you need to work with and getting the right advice and consultation. The thing is that we are all board members coming into an organization that may not have any experience where the organization is about. We may have a qualification in a particular field, but we come into an organization and it is the willingness and the ambition to move forward and create sustainable development for the company. That is what is the main focus here. It's not about the politics and who is who and who is not who. It's about getting a mandate for the company, the strategic plan, and following that plan in that particular direction.
If you were to present your case about how efficient your state board is, what is the one major accomplishment that you could credit to your name to say, this is what we've done and we've taken CPEP to another level?
Well, there are many that I can say, but I can start with we have increased the workforce by 100%. We are from 6,000 to almost 12,000, and we also introduced training for the workers, which is something that was not done before. We try to certify the workers, so we prepare them for the market out there. We prepare them for that activity because we don't want them becoming dependent on CPEP. So what we have done is we have done a proper assessment, and we maintain the strategic plan of what the company was set out to do. So we train the workers, we maintain the dignity of the contractors to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and we have increased the amount of the program.
I have mandated that the CPEP company move from earning in revenue $5 million a year to earning in revenue $20 million per year in revenue. We are in discussions with WASA, NGC, and other state enterprises to make CPEP a revenue earning company, as did Caroni 1975 Limited. We have a social responsibility, but we also have a responsibility to earn revenue. And today I challenge the board of directors and the management of CPEP to ensure that when the year end comes, the financial year, you can tell the Minister of Finance, sir, we would like X amount, but please note, we have raised X million dollars in revenue.
Is that even a realistic figure?
Yes, it is. It is very realistic because, I mean, for Carnival only, for NCC, we applied for one contract and that was just $3 million. So imagine that was $3 million in 1 month of the year. Imagine what we could do with other contracts. But what we have to do is we have to develop our proposal package to other companies, and we have to market ourselves, give them a good proposal, and there are many avenues we could go into. We do sanitation, we do landscaping, and we do the environmental enhancement and protection. So, and we also do the marine. I've had discussions with companies about cleaning up their water courses. That is a revenue earner. We're in discussion with WASA to see about their plant operations, TNTech, their plant operations. Energy wants us to train the workers to clean up oil spills. So in a disaster response, if it's an oil spill, we are able to assist. And all these are revenue earners, and that is what we're looking at. So it's not an unrealistic figure at all, 20 million.
So you're hoping by the next year you would have all these things on your accomplishment list?
Well, yes, of course, if I continue as chairman, I will have this as on my list, on my bucket list for CPEP, and it can be done. It can be done, as I said. We have a very good, strong management team. I have a very supportive board. They are all skilled in different areas, and we all work together as a team. And getting this done is just a matter of the proposals, and the income will come. But we are afraid to increase the income too much because then they might lower the subvention.
Now, I'm sure if we ask almost every state chairman, they will say their board is strong, they have done a lot over the past 2 years, and they've accomplished a number of things. But what do you think really sets off a state board? What do you think the cabinet or the relevant ministers are looking for within a state board itself?
Well, I think they're looking for competency at the management level. I think what they're looking for is that the strategic objective of the company is carried out, and they are hoping that the different opinions on the state board will come together, and many heads are better than one, and work with that strategic initiative and guide the company in that direction, and not for personal gain. That is basically what they would put on state boards, because it's people from different backgrounds, and actually people think it is a major responsibility, but it's a very time-consuming activity, and we get a basic stipend. We get a basic stipend as compared to if you have a full-time job.
So maybe under that review, you all could make a plug for an increase in salary.
Well, I mean, I am satisfied with what we have right now, but an increase is always good. And it's up to the government of the day and what the finances could afford. We work with that.
But do you think, if there's an increase, it might actually motivate these board members to to move the company to next level?
Well, you see, that's the thing. The board level, at being a member of a board and being a chairman, I have learned that it's not about being financially rewarded. This is you giving back to the country. This is basically what it is. It's a social responsibility. It's a voluntary thing. You are asked if you want to serve on a board, and you accept the offer, and you serve on the board for what it is worth. So the salary doesn't really.
But do you think at this stage it should be a social responsibility? Shouldn't it be more than that, given the fact that state companies are so inefficient and there's so much money just being wasted?
Well, again, once you have the best fit for the different boards and you have proper communication, you should not have a problem. I wouldn't want it to be a case where the board becomes a salary situation.
Forget about your friends, they don't care where we go.
When we come back,
in this period, we may run the risk, the period between now and November the 15th, we may run the risk of some items being off the shelves, because the Supermarket Association is not accepting the price increases.
the United Nations continues to express concern over rising global food prices. The UN has said that this trend will affect developing countries more so, and the international community should try to prevent sharp price increases. Maize prices alone went up by almost 23% after crops were destroyed in the United States due to weather conditions. Supermarkets have been faced with increasing prices. They now have to pay more for rice, pasta and ketchup, just to name a few. Many are hoping that when the VAT is removed from other basic food items on November 15th, food will be cheaper. While suppliers have been criticized by the Supermarket Association for increasing their prices before November 15th when VAT is removed on other basic food items, CEO and Managing Director of True Value Supermarket, Govind Murad, says this is not new. We've heard from the Supermarket Association basically that some suppliers have already started to increase their prices. This is mere weeks after the VAT removal on certain items take effect from November 15th. From True Value's side, what are you seeing so far? How are your suppliers reacting?
We have had some increases from suppliers, that they are proposed increases, but we have not accepted them. We are in full support of the Supermarket Association position that we are not accepting any price increases from zero-rated items or VATable items until November the 15th, when the full implementation of the removal of the VAT takes place.
What are their reasons for the price increases?
Well,
they
are saying that prices are going up internationally, the raw materials are going up, hence the resultant price increases. But we are in no position to validate that, so we have referred the proposed price increases to the Supermarket Association, who is sending them on to the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. For far too long, the supermarkets have borne the brunt of the public's discontent with price increases. And we want to make this process as transparent as possible, so that if these price increases are legitimate, we will let the Ministry of Consumer Affairs and the Ministry of Trade validate them and let us know that they are legitimate.
How often do suppliers usually come to you to say,
daily?
We have
It's a daily occurrence.
Really?
Daily. Prices change daily. They come to us with proposed price increases, and we would then negotiate with them in some instances. But in some instances, when it's like the multinationals, the trade accepts the price increases.
And the fact that the Supermarket Association is saying that some suppliers have started to increase their prices, suppliers of what kind of products, basically, items?
Well, recently we have had increases of pasta, we have had increases of condiments, and other smaller items. But over the year, we have had, before this proposal to remove VAT came into effect, we have had increases of pasta, we have had increases of the condiments, meaning ketchup, mustard, those types of things. We have had increases in a variety of items. It's been about, I would say, about 30 items that have increased, and varying percentages ranging from like 6% to, in some cases, 20%.
Now, fingers are already being pointed at the suppliers, so they're obviously looked at as the bad guys now. But then there's also the issue with supermarkets. So what happens come November 15th when VAT is removed on certain items and some supermarkets to find a reason to increase their prices?
Well, when...
And the benefits or the advantages are not passed on to the consumers.
Yeah. Well, on November the 15th, when VAT is removed from items that are VATable, we will see a reduction in the price of those items to the consumer initially. What happens after that is going to be dependent on whether the suppliers have legitimate price increases.
Now, what role or how effective is a prices council in an industry where the supermarket industry is basically competitive? So
yes.
If one supermarket has prices that's extremely high and another supermarket is lower, I mean, what can it really do when there's so many supermarkets and it's up to the consumers at the end of the day, shop here or don't shop here?
Well, because of the competitiveness of the supermarket industry, I don't think that any supermarket or the average supermarket can profiteer or engage in significant price increases that are unwarranted, because the customer has choice. They can go elsewhere. I mean, in this catchment area where True Value Trincity operates, they can go to Extra Foods, they can go to Food Basket, they can go to Price Mart. And there are now a proliferation of quick shops where the gas stations have mini supermarkets. And we are also noticing a significant rise in small Chinese-owned and operated supermarkets. So there's significant competition. So I don't think anybody who wants to charge higher than what we would consider to be normal or acceptable prices will last very long in the business, because the customer will go elsewhere.
Murad says supermarkets are faced with shrinking profit margins due to increasing costs. The security bill alone is a big expense. Why is it that some prices at some supermarkets are so high and at some it's reasonable, if you were to say, reasonable is the correct term? Is it that some look to make a bigger profit than others? Or is that just how it is in the business world?
I think in this economic environment, anybody who is trying to charge higher than what we would be considered norms for the industry is really looking to go out of business, because the customer has choices, and that to me is a very poor business strategy, and I don't think it would last. So anybody who is doing that on a consistent basis will see the result of it in short time. It is too competitive an industry where people are so mobile and can have options that they will continue to pay higher than normal prices when they have an alternative.
If you were to look at the profit margins that supermarkets bring in, is it significant? I mean, if you, in the scheme of things, would increase in food prices?
No, it's marginal, and I would use the word minimal. If we do everything right, in True Value, and I'm saying do everything right, we can end up with 3 cents on the dollar at the bottom line. 3 cents. Now understand that when you have price increases, you can, in some instances, you cannot pass them on to your customer because the customer's disposable income is not increasing. So in some instances, you have to absorb the price increases and work for smaller margins. You have to be continually improving your efficiencies in the business so that you can keep your costs down. However, the industry is being faced with significant increases, particularly in the area of security, where a lot of technology has to be introduced. We have increase in the number of guards. Shoplifting has become a major problem. Well, it was a problem before, but it is significantly increasing, where you have gangs of thieves coming in and stealing stuff from the supermarket, and they are not afraid to confront the security.
And you've had cases
yes,
like that?
Yes. We recently had a case where a group of about 5, including 3 women, came in, and because the security confronted them, they had a big altercation at the front of the store where it resulted in violence.
So what did they do? Did they pick up items?
They picked up items, concealed the items, and were walking out of the store with it, and the security confronted them, and they started to fight with the security. So at the end of the day, we have quite a number of security guards in the store. And
how much do you spend on security at your 6 branches?
In terms of I won't be able to give you the absolute number, but it is quite significant in terms of the cost of operation. This is one of our major costs of operation. And it is increasing and continues to do so.
Global food prices are increasing.
Yes.
And due to shortage of grains and other basic items. How is that affecting, how does that affect your profit at the end of the day?
It is impacting on the profits, in that it is causing the profits to decrease.
And
in this business, it's all about volume. You take smaller margins, but try to drive your volumes up at the expense of the competition.
Competing in a competitive environment makes it very difficult to attract customers. So you've identified just how competitive the supermarket industry is. How does that affect True Value when you have all these competitors?
Well, we have decided that our vision is going to be the best shopping experience. So in that shopping experience, we are going to make sure that we satisfy the customers, make sure that there's a bit of excitement in their shopping experience, make sure we cater to all their needs so that we could differentiate ourselves from the competition. People have choices, and given that most supermarkets are competitive within a small range of if you want to call it price differential, how you serve that customer is how you get the customer to come to your supermarket versus somebody else. In this supermarket, which is, we consider the premier supermarket in the country, we have what you call a one-stop shopping experience, where when you come into the supermarket, you can have a coffee in the coffee shop and a donut and a sandwich to eat. You can get your pharmaceutical needs satisfied.
So some of those extra items that you just listed, a lot of other supermarkets basically offer the same thing. So
they offer it to a certain level and a certain extent. Our variety is the widest, our quality is the best.
How difficult is it to really attract customers in a market like this?
It is very difficult. You have to make sure your standards are maintained consistently. You have to make sure that your service is where it should be. you have to make sure that the quality and the freshness of the product is of the highest standard consistently. And I think that the brand has a reputation for that. So people who come here know that the quality of the product is never compromised.
How effective does a brand work for supermarket? Let's look at maybe other companies or companies that make other items where once you have a strong brand, people go for that product on your shelf because they're familiar with that brand. But when you talk about you have shops around the corner, you have quick shops, you have these shiny shops, how much of a role does brand play in terms of attracting customers?
I think what is important is what the brand stands for, what we call the core values of the brand. The core values of the True Value brand are quality, variety, freshness, competitive prices, and good customer service. So and those things aren't just words. You have to deliver that consistently, and we have done that.
At a time when things are so tough and prices are increasing ever so often, prices must play one of the most significant roles in terms of attracting or pushing away customers.
Yes, we are very competitive with anybody in the trade right now. And the fact that we advertise our prices in the newspapers every 6 to 8 weeks is testimony to that. In other words, we are saying dare to compare. We are not afraid to put our prices out there in the newspapers.
Like many other businesses, True Value has a labor shortage, and Miraj says this explains the long lines customers have to face at the supermarket.
We have a significant problem with recruiting adequate labor to keep our front ends properly staffed. At any point in time, we are short of about 50 people. And I am quite surprised to hear that there is unemployment or chronic unemployment in the country, when if you went through the mall, Trinity Mall, you would see the number of help wanted signs. And if you were to poll the other supermarkets, they have similar problems in getting people, adequate people to work, people to pack the shelves, people to, as cashiers, people as wrappers, people to offload goods from the trucks into the back store. Significant shortage throughout the industry.
Why do you think that is the issue? Is it because maybe these, what the workers you're looking for, they're not really paid as a significant amount?
Well, I can't speak for the other supermarkets, but in our case, we pay the highest rates in the industry, as higher as comparative with the major players in the industry.
So somebody who, let's just say cashiers, or somebody who packs the bags, how much on average would somebody like that make?
A cashier can make between $17 and $18 an hour. Somebody who is a meat cutter works for about $20 an hour. So it varies depending on the task that you do. People who replenish the shelves work at $17 an hour, which is, quite reasonable. But I don't know if money is the issue, simply because we have wrappers, that's the guys who take out the groceries when you finish up. And based on the feedback from them in terms of tips, they can earn as much as $600 to $800 in tips per week, additional to their salary.
That much?
As much as that. So if money were the primary driver, we would have no problem recruiting carry-out guys.
Last week, some of the 6 True Value supermarkets were forced to shut its doors after workers stayed away from the job due to a breakdown in negotiations.
We have put a 7% on the table for the representative union, and they have not accepted it. And we don't see the need for industrial action because we are in negotiations, and the negotiations have not broken down. There is a process that if the negotiations have not broken down and we are in negotiations, the industrial action is illegal. And we hope that good sense would prevail, and there's an understanding by the workers and the union that the economy is very tight and that your cost cannot escalate to a point that makes you uncompetitive or makes the business no longer feasible.
The True Value CEO says business has been slow for the past 3 months, but he's hoping for a bumper Christmas season. What trend are you noticing from customers? Are they just coming to purchase basic items because it's so difficult to afford anything outside of that?
Yes. Well, the customers have been shopping more frequently now and buying less with each purchase. So it appears that people would shop for what they need and they would then come back when they need to refill whatever has run out. So the big baskets we are only seeing on mountains basically, whereas during the week the baskets are smaller and people are buying as they need.
And is this a sign that you would say that the economy, there's still a slowdown in the economy?
I think people are being very cautious and conservative and understanding what the global implications are. I mean, anybody who looks at the news will see what's happening in Europe, where there have been protests and riots based on the austerity measures taking place in Greece and various other countries.
This country has an annual multi-billion-dollar food import bill. True Value is playing its role in promoting locally produced food so as to reduce that bill. Are customers actually purchasing the local items, the local fruits and vegetables?
Yes, they are. Because of how we present it, because of the freshness and the consistent availability, they are purchasing it.
Now, we've heard the issue over the years about our high food import bill, billions of dollars. And on your shelves, do you have, how is it shared up? Is it shared equally in terms of where you have local produced, locally manufactured goods, or do you have more imported items on your shelves? And which one of those items do you see customers more opting for?
Well, it depends on the category that you look at. For example, behind us is eggs. Eggs are all locally manufactured, so locally produced. So this is an area that is totally local. If we move down to this area, a lot of the fruit juices that you see here are locally manufactured. All of these products are locally manufactured and they do quite well. And for example, all the innovations in beetroot punch, peanut punch,
people actually buy these things?
A lot of it. Look at the shelves, how depleted they are. The suppliers cannot keep up with the demand for these products. So you have CMOS, you have beetroot punch, you have peanut punch, you have various fruits.
Pumpkin and carrot.
Correct. And these are all locally produced products. So we showcase the local products. We've taken a decision that we are going to showcase the local products, and they are selling quite well.
And you have them right next to the imported ones.
Next to the imported one. You are correct.
They seem to be well stocked up, though.
Yeah. Well, there are customers who would buy this, but there are quite a number of customers who buy the local product because of the taste preference and the fact that, the image is that they are fresh juices. Taba, which is a local organization, has been producing plantain bread and cassava bread, but this is a cassava bake, which is made from local ingredients, and it's quite an innovative and ingenious product, and it sells very well. So as part of our support...
And it's whole wheat? Is this whole wheat?
No, this is normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have it in whole wheat too, I think. So as part of our support for the local industry, we are committed to showcasing this and affording them the opportunity to sell it to our customers. And I must say it's been doing quite well so far.
And what are the prices like? Are they competitive?
Yes, it's $9 for cassava bread. And I think this is around the same price to the plantain bread is around the same price.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. Would you join me, Judy Kanhai, same time and same place for another episode of Market to Market? And do remember to join us on Facebook for information on upcoming episodes. Bye for now.
listen, yeah. Tuesday on the rocks. Which one of them I go take home? Who love vibe and a big crowd, make out. It's a pretty girl and a date out. Wine and hush thing, girl. Fantasize, cause you need me now. And baby, if you're going my way, you can have it your way. So girl,